Are you constantly missing your marketing goals? Never have enough estimates? Can't seem to figure out marketing? Once you know these key numbers, you'll know how to fix your marketing and get a lot more clients. I've grown Elkhorn Painting to over $8 million annually, and I coach hundreds of painting contractors on marketing. And in this video, I'm going to be covering the fundamental marketing metrics to build a successful and strong marketing mix and outmarket your competition. The first mistake is looking for the right strategy without knowing the math of marketing first. Once I learned how to calculate these key marketing metrics like cost per lead, cost per estimate, cost of acquisition, cost of marketing became predictable. I took the blindfolds off myself and started to understand marketing, and I felt way more confident that I can spend money on each of these lead sources because I'm measuring them and I know exactly how they're performing on a monthly basis. Knowing these numbers removes the guesswork and allows you to make unemotional decisions that are right for the business. Track the math, not your feelings. You have to know these numbers to build an effective marketing plan. We're going to use 4 metrics to give you complete clarity over how to build your marketing budget. And those 4 metrics are your target cost of marketing, your average job size, your sales rate, and your lead to estimate conversion rate. Once you know these 4 numbers for your business, you can calculate how much you can afford to spend on your cost per estimate and how much you can afford to spend to acquire a new client. Now we need to calculate your marketing budget. And most people aren't spending enough. I'm going to walk you through the math so that you know exactly how much you can afford to spend on your marketing. So let's say our target cost of marketing is 10%. And let's say we have an average job size of $6,000. Let's say our sales rate is 50%. And we'll say our lead to estimate conversion is also 50%, meaning we set up 50% of the leads we get into estimates. Okay, so knowing these numbers, we can calculate our cost of acquisition. So our CAC, how much we can spend to acquire a new client, is $600. Why is it $600? Well, 600 is 10% of our average job size, 6,000. So this is how much we can afford to spend to acquire a new client, $600. That's a very key number. Now, given our sales rate is 50%, we can also calculate our cost per estimate. This is how much does it cost us to do an estimate? And it would be $300, right? Because $300 is half of 600 given our sales rate is 50%. If your sales rate wasn't 50%, you would have to do the math to understand, well, how much can I spend on an estimate to result in a $600 cost of acquisition? And given our lead to estimate conversion is also 50%, this means our cost per lead needs to be right at 150 because that's 50% of 300. So knowing these numbers is really critical because now we know, okay, I can spend $300 for every single estimate I do. Because if I spend $300 on every single estimate I do, then that means I know I'm going to book 50% of them, and that will result in a $600 cost of acquisition. And since I know my average job size is $6,000, that will leave me with a 10% cost of marketing. So doing this for entering your numbers here for these 4 metrics is absolutely critical to know, to be able to calculate your cost of acquisition and your cost per estimate and even your cost per lead. You're not buying leads, you're buying estimates. And you need to spend enough to hit your goals. So in this example, now that we know our cost of acquisition target is $600, and we know we can afford to spend $300 for every estimate that we complete, then we just ask ourselves, well, what is our estimate capacity? And let's say our estimate capacity equals 15 estimates per week, which equals about 60 per month. At this point, we can simply just multiply 60 times $300 because that's our cost per estimate. We know we can spend $300 for every estimate we do to achieve our 10% cost of marketing. So we simply take 60 times $300, which equals $18,000. So we know our monthly marketing budget is $18,000. In other words, I will gladly spend $18,000 if I'm achieving this $300 cost per estimate. Why? Because I know I'm going to sell 50% of these 60 jobs which will equal 30 sold jobs, and 30 sold jobs multiplied by $6,000 equals $180,000. And 18,000 is 10% of 180. So I know I'll achieve my 10% cost of marketing target knowing these numbers now. So when I get the question, what's a good cost per lead? How much should I be spending on marketing? Is this good? Is this good results on marketing? Is this not so good results on marketing? My number one advice is for that person to do this math, because that's a sign that this person isn't clear how much they can afford to spend given their numbers. So stop the video right now and go do this math for your business. Knowing these numbers is so critical because you want to shift your view into, I am buying estimates. And you want to know how much you can afford to buy estimates for. In this example, we just discovered we can afford to spend $300 per estimate. And as long as I'm at or below $300 per estimate, I will gladly spend more money because I know that I'll be at or below a 10% cost of marketing. Your job isn't to buy leads. It's to buy enough estimate opportunities to hit your goals profitably. Not all lead sources are created equal. Use data to optimize what's working and cut what's not. The next critical step to do is to track your marketing results by lead source. So we should be tracking how much we're spending by lead source, how many leads we're getting by lead source, how many estimates we're completing by lead source, how many jobs we're booking by lead source, and how much revenue we're booking by lead source. If we're doing that, we now, with this example we just went through, we have the ability to know exactly how each lead source is doing so we can optimize the great lead sources and cut the bad ones. So now that we know we can spend $300 on an estimate in the example we just went through, I want to go lead source by lead source and look at how much are we spending per estimate currently. So we might have lead sources where we're spending $200 per estimate, and we might have other lead sources where we're spending $800 per estimate. We track these numbers on a weekly and monthly basis, so we're constantly plugged into how is each lead source performing, and are we at, above, or below our target cost per estimate? Because that's the leading indicator for us that we're going to be at, above, or below our cost of marketing. Tracking these marketing metrics by lead source for your business allows you to know which marketing channels are performing the best and which ones aren't performing the best. It allows you to maximize the winners and cut the losers. Want in-depth marketing training to scale your business? Check out the link in the description.